Go and look at your hydrangea this afternoon, around 3 o'clock, when the sun is at its worst. If the leaves are drooping, hanging down like wet washing, you're watching something most people completely misread. Almost everyone sees that and thinks the same thing. It's hot. It'll perk up this evening. And it does perk up this evening, so they stop thinking about it. That plant just told you it's in trouble, and you thanked it for recovering. Do that 15 or 20 times over a summer, and you don't get a dead hydrangea. You get something worse, because it's slower. You get a plant that flowers less every year, browns at the edges by August, and eventually stops coming back properly at all. And the gardener says, "I don't know, it just went downhill." There's something in your kitchen right now that fixes this. It's free. You throw it in the bin every single morning. And almost everything you have ever heard about using it in your garden is wrong, which is exactly why it doesn't work for most people who try it. I'm going to tell you what it is, what it actually does, the correct amount, and then the honest part. The 3 things it will not do for you, no matter what the internet says. It's used coffee grounds. Now stay with me, because I know what you've heard, and I want to kill that idea before we go any further. Because the popular version of this tip is false, and believing it is why people try this once, see nothing, and give up. Before I keep going, I put together a guide called the Mediterranean Garden Playbook. Plain English covering the exact soil pH every one of these plants actually wants, the drainage fixes that work in real clay, the pruning window for each variety, and a chapter on what doesn't work. Link is in the description. If it saves one plant, it paid for itself. Now let me get back to it. Here's the myth. Coffee grounds are acidic. Acidic soil turns hydrangeas blue, therefore coffee grounds turn hydrangeas blue. That is not true, and it hasn't been true for a long time. Linda Brewer, a soil scientist with the Oregon State University Extension Service, put it plainly. Brewed coffee is genuinely acidic, sitting around pH 4.8 to 5.1. But spent grounds, the ones actually left in your filter, come in at pH 6.2 to 6.9. Essentially neutral. The acidity washes out of the beans during brewing. It ends up in your cup. It does not end up in the grounds. So spent grounds do not meaningfully lower your soil pH. They will not turn a pink hydrangea blue. Anyone selling you that is repeating something they read rather than something they measured. And here's the part that matters more. The people who chase blue flowers with coffee grounds are answering a question about color. Your hydrangea has a much more urgent problem, and it's about water. Look at the name. Hydrangea. It comes from the Greek hydor, meaning water. That name is not decoration, it's a warning label, and the people who named it were being specific. Hydrangeas have a shallow, fibrous root system. Not a taproot going down looking for moisture like an oak. A dense mat of fine feeder roots sitting in the top few inches of soil, where the ground dries out first and heats up fastest. This is why the hydrangea is usually the first shrub in the whole garden to wilt. Most types show visible stress within 3 to 5 days of dry soil. Roses hold on longer. Lilacs hold on longer. The hydrangea is the canary. Now here are the 2 numbers that changed how I think about this plant. Bare soil around a hydrangea loses moisture to evaporation at a rate up to 5 times higher than mulched soil. 5 times. And in summer heat, the soil temperature at the root zone of an unmulched plant can hit 120 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. That's not uncomfortable for the roots. That actively damages fine feeder roots and shuts down root activity, even when there is water present. The plant can be standing in moist soil and still be unable to use it, because the roots have essentially gone offline from heat. That is what's killing your hydrangea. Not the winter, not the pruning, though we'll get to that. The top 3 inches of your soil are cooking every afternoon and drying out 5 times faster than they need to. And that is exactly the problem coffee grounds solve, as organic matter worked into the soil, which is a completely different job from acidifying it. Before you do anything, run this test. It takes 10 seconds, and it's the only watering advice you'll ever need. Push your finger into the soil beside the plant, 4 inches down. Not 2. 4. If it comes out with damp soil clinging to it, do not water. If it comes out clean and dry, water now and water properly. The reason this matters is that overwatering and underwatering look identical in a hydrangea. Drooping, yellowing, dropping leaves. Root rot mimics drought almost perfectly, because rotted roots can't move water either, which means if you diagnose by looking at the leaves, you have a 50-50 chance of doing exactly the wrong thing. The finger test removes the guess. Now the amounts. This is where people ruin it. Coffee grounds go on at 1/4 of an inch. Maximum. That's a thin scatter, not a layer. More than that, and they mat together into a crust that actually repels water. You'll create the opposite of what you wanted. This is the single most common mistake with grounds, and it's why some people report them making things worse. Work them about 4 inches into the soil around the plant, rather than leaving them sitting on top. Or better, run them through your compost first, and apply the finished compost instead. Let them dry out before you store them, or they go moldy in the tub. Then mulch over the top, and this is the half of the job that does the heavy lifting. 2 to 3 inches of organic mulch across the whole root zone. Shredded bark, leaf mold, compost, aged wood chips, straw. That 3-inch layer cuts moisture loss between waterings by up to 70%. Keep it clear of the stems. Never pile it up against the crown in a volcano. That traps damp exactly where the plant can rot, and it gives voles and borers somewhere to live. 2 mulches to avoid. Fresh wood chips less than 6 months old, which temporarily lock up soil nitrogen as they break down. And gravel or stone, which sounds tidy and instead radiates heat straight back down into the root zone you're trying to cool. Watering, since we're here. Deep and infrequent, never light and daily. 2 or 3 times a week in hot weather, and enough each time to soak the root zone 12 inches down, roughly 15 to 20 minutes on a slow-running hose. Light daily sprinkling is the worst thing you can do, because it trains the roots to stay at the surface, which is the exact layer that hits 120 degrees. Now the honest part. First, this will not turn your hydrangea blue. Color is not about pH directly, it's about aluminium. Big leaf hydrangeas make a pigment called delphinidin, which is pink on its own. When aluminium ions bond to it, it goes blue. Acidic soil below pH 6.0 unlocks aluminium so the roots can take it up. Above 7.0, the aluminium is chemically locked away, and you get pink, no matter how much is physically in the ground. If you genuinely want blue, that's aluminium sulfate or elemental sulfur applied deliberately over a season, not your morning filter. Second, and this is the one nobody mentions, only big leaf and mountain hydrangeas change color at all. Panicle, smooth, oak leaf, and climbing types cannot, whatever you pour on them. White hydrangeas stay white regardless. So before you spend a season chasing blue, work out what you actually own, because for a lot of people, the answer is a plant that was never going to do it. Third, this fixes moisture. It does not fix flowering. Big leaf and oak leaf hydrangeas set their buds on old wood, the previous year's stems, which means an autumn tidy-up removes next summer's flowers with your own hands. Panicle and smooth types flower on new wood and can be cut in late winter. Get that backwards and you'll have the healthiest, greenest, most well-watered hydrangea on the street, and not one bloom on it. And a small one. Don't feed a hydrangea in its first year in the ground. It needs to build roots, and pushing top growth before the root system exists is how you get a plant that looks brilliant in year 1, and collapses in year 2. Everything here comes back to one idea, and it isn't really about coffee. We treat the hydrangea as a decoration, and it behaves like a wetland plant that we've asked to live in a hot, bare, exposed border. The whole job is protecting 3 inches of soil. Feed that layer, cover that layer, keep it cool and damp, and the plant handles the rest itself. The grounds aren't magic. They're free, organic matter that you're currently paying someone to take away. Cover the soil. Water deep. Check with your finger, not your eyes. That's the whole thing, and it costs you nothing but the 2 seconds it takes to tip the filter into a tub instead of the bin.